When the sun refused to shine, people tell me that angel, you still cry. Now, my girl, you're so young and brave, and one thing I know is true. You did before your time is due. I know. Watch my daddy in bed, watch his habit turn straight. He's been working and slaving his life away. Oh, yes, I know. It's been working so hard. I've been working We gotta get out of this place. If it's the last thing we ever do, we gotta get out of this place. There's a better life for me and you. And welcome back to Dr. Drill's Making Motivation podcast, where it is our mission to honor interesting and authentic people that tell their stories, to inform the viewer, and to make you think, to put a smile on your face and a little bit of fire underneath your ass. Check it out, motivators. This morning, I've got Chief Joseph Daly, and this gentleman is a Marine. He is a law enforcement veteran. For 57 years, he's been serving his country and his community. He's a father and a grandfather, and I don't think he's going to stop serving anytime soon, as evidenced by him fielding a phone call right before we were going live on our podcast here. Good morning, Joe.
Morning, Doc. How you doing?
I'm awesome, man. Listen, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy man, though retired. I'm looking at your body of work here, a little bio that I requested from Chief Daly, and it's extremely impressive, and I'll share that in just a moment. But I want to just to set the stage here, because what happened was, as Dr. O, Dr. Chiropractic here at Healthy Balance, I have a patient on the table the other day, and I can't help but share with them what's going on in my life. We have many great conversations, and I was talking about my passion for doing this podcast and reconnecting with my Marine brothers and all kinds of interesting and authentic people. And I told them that I'm on a search, a quest even, to find these folks. And I know that every individual, if you ask them, who's the coolest person you know, who's an interesting person that by sharing their story, we might be helping people, inspiring and motivating people. Making motivation is what we're about. And this gentleman said, hey, I got a guy. He's got a tech business, and he said, "Hey, there's a guy that I know. We worked at this police department down in Lower Marion, and there's this guy, Chief Daly. You got to hear about this guy. He's a Marine too, and he served in Vietnam, and you know, he's a really respected member of the community and stuff." And so, I guess he cleared it with you, but because a couple days later, I'm sending a text out or left a message rather, and just respectfully asking for an hour of your time to hear your story, Joe. And so thank you for coming on. This is how it happens, people connecting people, and I can tell that this is already going to be a great episode. So I'm just going to do a little screen share and share with the viewer who we're dealing with here. So let's go here. Joe Daly bio. Let's check this out. All right. So, Chief of Police, Springfield Township. Superintendent of Police, Acting Superintendent of Police, Captain, Township Manager, Lieutenant, Sergeant, and then Police Officer, started in 1970. Emergency Management Coordinator. A United States Marine, had a combat field promotion to sergeant, which is an absolute honor, and that was 67 to 69. Here a little bit of our Vietnam playlist there. Credit going to the animals. We got to get out of this place. They're probably going to hit for the copyright infringement. but we'll figure that out. Recipient of the Bronze Star, Vietnamese Cross of Gallantry, and the Purple Heart. Did serve 2 tours in Vietnam. Organizations affiliated: FBI Academy, International Associations of Police Chiefs, various Montgomery County Chiefs of Police, Marine Corps, Echo 27, Vietnam Veterans Association, and on and on. And you're a son of Philadelphia there, Joe?
Yes, I am. Born and raised in Philadelphia.
What neighborhood?
West Philadelphia. If you knew where Transfiguration was, my parish. I'm born in Misericordia Hospital. I live right around the corner from Misericordia Hospital.
Outstanding. What was that like growing up in Philly back in the day? What were we talking about? 50s?
Oh, yeah. I was born in 48, and this is the 50s. We lived there. At that point, my father, we weren't rich people. We lived in a row home. There was 9 of us living in a 3-bedroom row, which didn't have there was no sink in the bathroom. I just had a tub and a toilet, and my father would shave over the bathtub in the mirror. And we moved out of there in 1957 to Delaware County in Glen Olden. And there my father had 3 more children. So I was one of 11. I had 6 brothers and 4 sisters. And, college was not my father was a common laborer. We just about survived. I mean, hot dogs and hamburgers were dinner. So come up humble. And when I got into high school, Vietnam was going on, and I've always had this drive inside of me to serve. And I knew college wasn't going to happen, so I joined the Marine Corps while I was still in high school. I joined my senior year in May. I took the waiting until I graduated. After I graduated, I went to Paris Island, did my training there, and then moved on to Camp Lejeune. Then I became a machine gunner at Camp Lejeune, and that was my MLS. I was a machine gunner. I came home, spent 20 days at home, and then left for Vietnam. Was gone for about 15 months, and during at the end of my second tour, I signed up for a second tour in Vietnam. Made the dumbest mistake of coming home. You haven't lived. They actually plucked me off a mountain in Vietnam in a helicopter, flew me into Da Nang, got me on a plane. Within 48 hours, I left the jungles of Vietnam, was standing in Philadelphia. And it was like you talk about a culture shock.
I bet.
And then after I had a 30-day leave, and then I had to repeat the process. I had to leave all that good stuff and go back to the jungle again for another tour of duty. So I was actually signing up for my 3rd tour of duty when my first sergeant said to me, if you have less than a year to do when you get out, and when you get home, they'll let you go. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, at that time as a sergeant, I said, I think I'm give me that piece of paper back. So I didn't sign up for the 3rd tour, but they offered me to stay, and they would make me a staff sergeant. I was only 20 years old. They wanted to make me a staff sergeant and send me to DI school. But at that time, I was my girlfriend, my wife now, Donna, was in high school still, and
right.
I didn't want to be away from her again for that long. And I looked at the housing for NCOs back then, Doc.
Yeah.
Back then I wouldn't have put my dog in that place. I saw a place. I went in. So my God, it was dirty. There was mold, and I said, I can't start raising a family here. But fast forward to today, the housing they got today is just astronomical. It's just fantastic. When I got to Vietnam, I was assigned to Echo Company. And excuse my French, when you first get in country, you're an FNG. That's a FN new guy.
Yeah.
And they would talk to you, but they wouldn't really respond to you until after your first firefight. They want to see how you were under fire before they would take you into the fold, so to speak. So after that, then you become. It's a relationship I can't find. It's more than brothers. I wear a shirt that says that few men become brothers. That we served together and we became brothers. All from different mothers, but I feel so strongly about those guys today. And like I told you, every other year, the Echo Company gets together and we, talk about. At first, we used to talk about Vietnam, and that kind of drove me nuts because when I came home, I had survivor's guilt. My company lost 88 killed in action. We had collision replacements and everything, over 1,500 wounded, most of which didn't come back. At one point, they put us on the float phase. They called it the float phase. He said, "You're going to be out with the Navy. You'll be on the ships." We all think, "Oh, man, we got it knocked." We're going all in ports with the Navy and everything, no more combat and everything else. Nothing could have been further from the truth. We wound up being a point battalion on so many different operations. We made amphibious landings. Whenever there was we were at a point in a lot of combat action, assisting the Army and so forth. And so we lost a lot of guys. One of them, his picture, actually, I just started to build this office since I got left. I have a picture of Oscar Austin. Oscar Austin was a young black man from Nacogdoches, Texas, who was a sole survivor, didn't have to come in and joined the Marine Corps. And on February 69, Oscar was on a listening post and we got overrun. And Oscar was in a good spot. Two Marines in front of him were wounded, and Oscar left his position, get out. As he's approaching, they threw a grenade. Oscar laid between the grenade and the guys and took the full impact of the grenade, but wasn't killed. He was seriously wounded. He gets up and drags the two Marines to his position, and two NVA soldiers come up, "We're going to kill him." And he jumped in front of them, and they did kill him. But Oscar received the Congressional Medal of Honor posthumously for his heroic action. There's actually a destroyer, the USS Oscar Austin, named after him. It's
outstanding.
And I don't know if you can see that picture laying in behind me, but that's the picture of Oscar. If you like, it's important. Let me. That's Oscar Austin.
That's awesome, man.
When the ship's captain, when we got voted, we got invited down to Richmond, Virginia, when the ship was in port.
Right.
And the new skipper asked anybody. They had Oscar's commendation hanging up on the ship, but nobody knew him. And they asked us if we knew him personally. And actually, one of the guys he saved, life he saved, came there as well to that rededication of the ship. It was really a beautiful event, and they gave me that lithograph, which I hang in a place of honor in my office. So I told my wife I'd hang it over the bed, but she drew a line at that. So, but anyhow, I serve with some really good guys, and life is a learning process, Doc. And yep. I've learned. There's Oscar. Yeah,
awesome.
We used to call Oscar the sheriff. Now, and you've got to remember, in 68 and 69, the civil rights movement was going on, and Oscar was. We weren't immune from it. Most of us, we always saw ourselves as green, black, white. It didn't make a difference to us. We were Marines, and that's all that mattered. Whenever anybody would start that nonsense, Oscar, whether you're black or white, Oscar would come over and read you the riot act, about what we're all about. So he's always been had a good place in my heart because Oscar was truly a good man.
Joe, I love that sort of stuff, man. I've talked a lot about that topic, shades of green, the dark green, light green, that the melting pot of individuals. I feel like there's something there. I'm sure in your service, even beyond the Corps and in Vietnam, but I mean, like the way service can bring people together and kind of clear any of the other distractions or categories of individuals, and how it can unite people. That's one of my favorite parts, I think, as well of I just served in peacetime, but the brotherhood that people thrust into a difficult situation together, they have to rely upon one another. That's a great story. I love to I can't hear that enough, especially in a time where it seems like at least there's a lot of things that stand between people segments of the population. There's a lot that we have in common.
That's right. I wish everybody could go into the service and serve. I think part of the problem, Doc, is we all grew up in neighborhoods. Well, I was born and raised in West Philadelphia, so being around people of color was nothing new to me. But you have people come from all different walks of life, and they come from their community, and they really don't get to know much outside of that community. I remember as a kid, I got in a fist fight because somebody told me I was a Roman Catholic, and I thought I was an Irish Catholic. I was always told I was an Irish Catholic. I didn't. What the hell's a Roman Catholic? I didn't know what that was. And I got in a fist fight. I got home and told the old man. I said, "Hey," and he said, "Hey, you are a Roman Catholic," But I always heard Irish Catholic my whole life. So when you get into an environment that, and you just see, everybody bleeds red. I don't care who. Everybody bleeds red, and the Marine Corps. And I loved it. Marine Corps taught us the value of country, ourselves, our unit. That was important to us. We served our country, and we served our country as a unit. I tell everybody I went to boot camp as an individual. It's like you're the fingers on your hand. You come out, it's open. But when you close that hand and make that fist, that's what the Marine Corps made us. It took us from being individual fingers to being united in the strength in the fist, as opposed to each individual finger. So I've always felt that, and it was ingrained to me. I actually drank the Kool-Aid in boot camp. I loved the process. I loved the discipline, and I loved the service. And that's what it was all about. So I really drove them nuts when I went to machine gun school. I'm left-handed, and the instructor at the machine gun school was telling everybody, he would tell me, whatever I tell them to do, you do the opposite. But I learned how to use that machine gun. I was pretty good with it. It was fully automatic. I could squeeze one round over the time and hit what I was shooting at.
Wow, man! This is the M60 we're talking about?
Yeah, the M60. I carried that. You can't say the Marine Corps doesn't have a sense of humor, Doc. I must have weighed 155 pounds, soaking wet. I get to carry a machine gun, 200 rounds of ammunition, my pack, my food, the cartridge belt and everything. And some big guys driving a truck or a tank, it always made me laugh at that. Think of that. So, but I wouldn't have traded it for the world. It just became so much a part of me, and being with, it's hard to put into words. When you serve in combat with somebody, there's a relationship and that nobody can understand except somebody who was there, and it's a brotherhood that I'm so proud to be part of, yeah, there it is. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah. That I could actually fire that thing from the hip.
Really?
Yeah.
Accurately?
Yeah, pretty good. The day I got my Bronze Star, I got hit 7 times, but not a bullet. The only thing came close to me, a bullet went through my trouser leg, and I burned the side of my leg, but that was it. I had the gun shot out of my hand. That plastic piece you see there, in front of the trigger, I had a big hole in it. I shot a hole in that on me, but it didn't hit me.
Pretty impressive, man. Yeah, that's so Kentucky windage, huh?
Yes. So I always said, I thought, Doc, I always thought that God was with me. I shouldn't be talking to you today, and I have so many brothers that didn't make it to home, and that's kind of. When I came back, I had survivor's guilt. I had a bad case of survivor's guilt. Why did I live and those guys die? And it finally occurred to me that, maybe not something I had to do, but God had a plan for my son or my grandchildren or my great-grandchildren, and I had to be here for it. And it finally helped me deal with it. But then it came involved with, I'm the president of the Delaware County Veterans Memorial. We have a memorial in Delaware County that's up on par with anything in D.C. And every year we pick out 5 or 6 former military people who served their country with distinction and then continue to serve. We call it after the medals.
Right.
That continue to serve their country like you do with this podcast. Get that thing out, and we honor them, and we give them the Delaware County Freedom Medal Award. We have it at a dinner. There's like 600 people come to this dinner every year. When we do a video of the recipients, and every time we do those videos, you can hear a pin drop. Everybody just listens so intently to what these men and women have contributed in our lives. And it's just amazing to me. So,
It's tremendous, dude. It's
when
tremendous.
they come out of you ask some of the funny things, a couple of things you do when you're done, when you have nothing to do on your hands and you can only clean your weapons so many times. I thought it would be funny. I took a grenade and unscrewed it and threw the blasting cap. I pulled the pin and threw the blasting cap off, and then I put it back together. And I was sitting in a tent with a bunch of the guys, and I said, I can't take this anymore. And I pulled the pin and dropped that thing between my feet. If they had caught me, they'd have hurt me. They didn't see any humor in that at all. So we had a lieutenant. I don't even know what he was thinking. He found a spider hole. The spider hole is a one-man hole, and Charlie would like to get in the hole and wait for two columns to go by, shoot at one, shoot at the other, and try to get them to shoot at each other.
Yeah.
Well, we found a hole, and he said, I want you to blow it up. I said, what? I want you to blow. I said, it's a hole. How do you blow up a hole? I want the hole blown. I don't want it to be used again. I'm thinking you should backfill it, not, well, anyhow. Paul Nicodemus and I, he tells us to blow up this hole. Well, Paul was a little off center. He got about 20 pounds of C4. We all carried 2 pounds of C4, and he put it all together in a big block. And he put a blasting cap, and he put a fuse about that big in it. I said, that fuse ain't long enough. He said, yeah, it is. I said, Paul, that fuse is not long enough. Well, he dropped that thing and pulled it. I was already running before he threw it. The concussion knocked us both down. I'm covered in dirt and things. The hole that would fit one person, you can now put a tank and probably a platoon of guys in there with it. Just the silly things that
you got to pass the time, right?
Yeah. But when I came back from that, it became the drive in me to serve. I'm a service guy. I love service. I love people, like you do, Doc. I love people. I think there's good people and there's bad people, but mostly I think they're good people. I think we're exposed to the bad all the time, and we start thinking that that's what it is. I actually tell policemen when they come on a job, you deal with 2% of the people 98% of the time, and 98% of the people 2% of the time. And if you're not careful, you think everybody acts like the 2%. There's a lot of great people out there, and they love us and want us and need us and support us. So I don't get into all this hype they have today about disband the police, defund them, and all that stuff. It's all nonsense.
Thank goodness, man. Thank goodness.
We're dedicated. Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
We are. Every police officer I know, we're dedicated to protecting our community. And it's and I tell people, if you come here and become a policeman because it's a job, you're not going to do well. Policing is a way of life. If you're not willing to accept it as a way of life, then you're not going to be good in this business. You got to act the part on and off duty. You can't.
Yeah,
and I've always done that.
And as they say, a couple things come to mind, Joe. It's if they say if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life, right?
Yes.
So, and then the other thing is, when you've served the level that you had in the Corps, and you had that powerful experience, and you come back, there's a lot of things you can do, but especially you talk about survivor's guilt and things like that. I didn't have that problem, thankfully, but I love the notion. I always love the notion of, like, if I'm carrying that flag and we're charging the hill and I go down, pick up that fucking flag. You know what I mean?
Right.
You keep on going. So to continue to serve and honor, it honors people like, the gentleman you just, you mentioned, Austin there. And others. I mean, I feel like service, there's all types of service, right? There's military service and civil service, and it's all wonderful. But there's, I feel like people, we all serve in our own way. If you can friggin', I've often felt like there should be some, as you mentioned earlier, some sort of mandatory service. It can be military, yeah. It can be civil. I don't care if you're walking down the street picking up trash, or helping a little old lady across the street, or trying to do, pay it forward in some way. We can all serve. And I think that's important that people know that, because then they realize, like, I got skin in the game. I can help. And yes. Finally, we used to say in the Corps, the 10 percenters, they would call 10% of the Marines would cause 90% of the problems for, for the unit, right? You're always chasing them around. They're bouncing checks or getting DUIs or whatever like that. And the rest, you can't blame everybody for, or the populace. We could extrapolate that to the population, right? Everybody, I'm at Planet Fitness. I'm walking on the treadmills and I see, one news station over to the left and the other, Fox News on the left and CNN on the right, and they're both saying opposite things. And I feel like I don't want to be angry when I'm working out, man. I'm trying to get some endorphins flowing. What the hell are we turning our attention to all this negativity for? We got good to do, Yeah.
And there's so much good out there, and I've seen it, and I thrive in it. I'm actually having trouble with this retirement. I've had a job since I was 10 years old. I have always done a paper route, caddied, worked in a store, worked in Westinghouse, Marine Corps, then police work. Last 54 years in the police department. It's service. I break people into two categories: givers and takers. Givers are always satisfied. They give of themselves. They freely give of their time and their efforts and their abilities, and they're always satisfied. I've never seen a giver that's dissatisfied. Takers, on the other hand, are never satisfied. You give, and then they're looking for what else is coming. So I break us down into two categories: givers and takers.
That's great, man. That's sound wisdom. That's the stuff I'm looking for. People are going to love this podcast, Joe. If you don't mind sharing the circumstances of the battlefield promotion to sergeant and then the Bronze Star. In August, the combat promotion came in August 18th. On the 17th of August, it was actually turning dark, and we were moving forward towards a tree line across an open rice paddies. It was getting dark. And Lieutenant Jim Toya, was our lieutenant. And he was a Navajo Indian from Arizona. And Lieutenant Toya felt that something was, he did not like us approaching that tree line. I don't know what got him going, but he felt that we were going to get in trouble. So he got a few of us forward and he said, "Fire your guns in the air." So what? Fire your guns in the air. So we fired our guns in the air. He's on the radio telling them that they made contact in the front and, want to withdraw because it's too dark. Well, we withdrew. And that night we set up about 200 yards from that tree line. And the next morning we advanced on that tree line. There was 96 of us that day and started into the field. At the end of 8 hours, there was only 41 left. We lost 7 dead, the rest wounded, a lot of headshots. We were up against snipers. They were in the tree line, and we were out in the rice paddies in the open. And when we started back at the end of the day, Lieutenant Toya, though, unfortunately, we advanced on that tree line. We did a full attack on the tree line, and Lieutenant Toya was shot and not killed, but shot between under his arm, one through one, out the other. He was medevaced out, and I've never forgotten Jim Toya my whole life. It wasn't Lieutenant Toya, as bad as August 18th was. If we had continued that night, August 17th probably would have been a massacre. I don't think any of us would have survived that because they had us out in the open, in the dark, trying to fight a battle in the dark. It's just not good. Daytime, at least you can see and move and you see what's around you. So Lieutenant Toya will always have a special place in my heart for just being the man he was. He did not survive that.
Yes, he did. He's actually living in Arizona.
Awesome, man.
He is such a great guy. At our last reunion, he was trying to get us a wind talker to come, and but the wind talker lost a relative and couldn't make it. So, but Jim's that's the kind of officers the Marine Corps produced, And in my whole time in the Marine Corps, there was only one officer in that whole time that I felt that how the heck did he become a Marine officer? He just didn't have it. But every one of them were there, and those officers led from the front. They weren't behind you; they were beside you. So when I came out in the field that day, I got a combat promotion. I was one of the last to come out, and was covering the retreat. And Lieutenant General Omar Simpson promoted me to sergeant. And my top sergeant says to me, he says, "Hey, you know how important that stripe is?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you know nobody below the rank of a 2-star general can take that stripe away from you because the 2-star general gave it to you?" I said, "You think that's good news? If I screw up and I wind up on a board with 2-star generals and above on it," I said, "I'm going to be in Leavenworth the rest of my life." So I didn't see that as a good thing. That was August 18th. On September 19th, our sister companies, Goff and Foxtrot, Fox Company, there was a railroad berm that ran the whole length of Vietnam, ran from North to South Vietnam. No tracks on it anymore, but it was used as a supply line. That's how the North Vietnamese would run supplies down. They'd use that berm at nighttime to move stuff. Well, they went across that berm and were sweeping across a sugarcane field, and they ran into a reinforced regiment. And they were just getting mowed down. We called us up as reserve to assist them. When I went over that berm, all they saw was wounded and dead Marines all over the place, and they were still shooting at them. Even though they were down, then I got pissed off, to tell you the truth, Doc. And I moved forward with the machine gun, and I was shooting at them and keeping their heads down. And I told everybody, come and get the dead wounded out of there. And I would put down the cover fire to make that happen. A good friend of mine, Corporal Joe Lopez, he actually ran past me. He actually took out a machine gun nest on his own, came back. And as I was putting down cover fire, Joe was carrying out wounded. And he carried out 2. And then he came back without his rifle because it was cumbersome. And when he's picking up the 3rd wounded Marine, he was killed. Joe got the Silver Star for that. But years later, he had a son who was 2 years old at the time. Just in the last few years, he reached out to me because he wanted to know about his dad and how his dad died. And I told him his dad died as a hero. I mean, he could have he could have just carried one wounded guy out and he was done. But Joe kept coming back, and
That's awesome.
He got killed when removing his 3rd wounded Marine out there. Anyhow, they were told to withdraw, and I told them I would hold my position. And it actually became bullets were flying all over the place. So I had to move, but I fired from my hip till I moved to another location, tried to keep their heads down, and they removed the rest of the guys. And in my mind, it was ingrained in us. You do not leave a Marine on the ground. You don't leave anybody on the field. And that was a sacred duty to all of us. And I don't think I earned the Bronze Star. I think I was doing what my brothers would have done for me. I was up there making sure that we got them out there. We didn't leave anybody behind on that battlefield. So that's what was important to me. So, but they said they gave me a Bronze Star for it anyhow. But
that's freaking awesome.
I never thought it was anything I earned. I thought it was just I was doing my duty.
Yes.
Fulfilling my obligation. So.
Yeah. Well, that's friggin' phenomenal, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's unbelievable. Where's some of the other guys? You mentioned several of the guys you served with that were special individuals. You get anybody else come to mind that you still maintain contact with or you think about from those days?
Oh yeah, there was a guy, Tom Bollinger. Tom Bollinger was shot 3 times. August 18th, that battle I was talking about, that was his last wound. He was shot in the stomach and medevac tone. But I used to kid Tom. I used to tell him whenever I got in a firefight, I'd look to see where you were. If you're too close, I moved. But there is a true American hero. If you ever get to Quincy, Massachusetts, that's Tom's up there. Tom is so involved with the veterans. He was a lieutenant on the Quincy Police Department in Massachusetts, and he retired. And he's just devoted his whole life to veterans. He's a Bronze Star winner, 3 Purple Hearts. That man didn't know how to duck. But Tom's another true American hero. Guy.
What was his? I'm sorry. That's awesome, man. Did you have an A gunner?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, JL was my A gunner. I kept losing him all the time, but but he was a good guy. They all were, the whole fire team.
Losing him in that he would be taken.
He'd get distracted, and he would, I would move. I wouldn't talk all the time and tell him where I was going. I would just move, And Jay was always playing catch up,
So Joe, when you're out there running operations in the jungle, you talked about day versus night. Was a lot of the work then done during the day?
Yes, most of our unless it was they overrun our positions, they would all. I used to hate those moonless nights. If you had a moonless night and when it was cloudy, you would gear up to get hit, because that's when they love to hit. When it was pitch black, they usually arrive around 2:00 in the morning and penetrate your lines, and then you would be in a firefight to daylight. We were on an artillery base. Actually, to this day, I don't understand why they did the way they did. There was only a platoon of Marines, and we had half the perimeter. So we had 2-man holes. So one slept and one was on alert all night long. And we had engineers there too. The engineers actually had electricity. They had a bar. They had so they got cold beers and everything. And the artillery guys. Well, we were working with 2-man holes, and they had like at least 7, 8 guys in their holes. Well, anyhow, around 2:00 in the morning, they fell asleep, and I always felt sorry for this group of engineers. There was 8 of them in a bunker. Charlie went in and slit the throats of 7. I don't know what they lost count, but they didn't get the 8th guy. He woke up, and when all the fighting started, and all those guys, his brothers, were dead. They were drinking and they fell asleep. Oof. So he was a mental case the next day. The next morning when we finally got to him, but anyhow, then they hit us in the wire. They were trying to get we had 4 artillery pieces on that small base, and they were trying to get to the artillery pieces, and so it started at 2 and went to about 5 in the morning. But I was telling you about this Paul. The next morning, for some reason, I don't know why the NBA soldiers thought the freezer was, but they dropped a grenade in the freezer. So there went all the cold beer and everything else. Well, Paul got pissed. Paul walks off the base. He's got on a helmet, a bandolier of bullets. He's got on a pair of green underwear with a safety pin in the crotch and unlaced combat boots. And he walks off the base. Now, we just got to run, so they've got to be out there somewhere. He goes down to the village about a click from where we were and robs the village at gunpoint. He comes back with a goop cart full of beer and ice that he took off of them. And his point was they should have told us they were coming. So, but he went down and robbed the village. I don't know how he survived. But there's some of the characters you meet in life. We had a guy from we had a Hell's Angel in my outfit. Yeah. Had a young man from Florida who was part of the Florida chain gang. His last arrest, he gave him a choice, and he joined the Marine Corps rather than go to jail. So we had a mixed bag, and they could always tell the guys that were drafted or forced into the Marine Corps because they'd be talking. I said, "You were drafted, weren't you? How do you know that?" I said, "Just the way you're talking." So I got nobody to blame but myself. I came in, I did this to myself. I joined, and I was always proud of that. It was the first Marine in my family to join. My older brother got drafted in the Marine Corps. He was not a happy camper, but he got drafted in the Marine Corps, and I joined. Yeah. And then when I did that, I came home. And my wife Donna, she was only 15. I was 18. She was 15 when I went to Vietnam. She waited for me, and I just thought that was incredible. So when we got home, I became a police officer. I had to get something to get a steady job before we got married. And we got married. Donna was 19. I was 22. We had our first child when I was 23. And my son was a Marine, and Dennis was a Marine, and he's a police officer today.
I read that, man. I read that. That's impressive.
Really, he makes me so proud. So proud of all my children, my 2 daughters and my son. So I became police officer, and I got a great story. When I came back from Vietnam, I got sick when I was over there. I think I must have weighed maybe 135, 140 pounds. I applied for police work in Lower Marion, and the thing at the time, you had to weigh 165 pounds. I had the height, I had the vision, I had everything else going, but I didn't have the weight. So I stepped on the scale and I said, well, this is it. I'm done there. To my amazement, the scale was up to 165 pounds. And I look back and Sergeant Bernie Lochran is standing on the scale. He's got his foot on the scale. And he says, you're sure as hell not going to get any skinnier, you know. And now there's something a guy did for a vet that, you know, it's just amazing how things happen. You know, fast forward when I was in Lower Marion, Desert Storm and all those things came up. And the board was struggling with what to give the reservists when we have reservists being called up from the department. And I went to the board meeting. I said, you know, when I put my manager's hat on, I said we should give them the minimum, which is just this and the other thing. I said, but I want to tell you a story. So I told the story about Bernie. I said, that kindness to a veteran, I said, look where it got me today. I'm now your superintendent of police, you know, from that kind act he did. So I talked the board into giving them the difference in their pay, keep all their medical benefits in place, gave them a couple extra, you know, they get 15 days a year. They got an extra 15 days. They gave them 30 days more pay on top of that. And we took care of the families while they were gone. Made sure we stayed in contact with them, you know, see if they needed anything, and, you know, wrote letters to them to make sure that they were still connected. You know, and that's important when they're away. And today, these these young men and women serving in our armed forces today, I heard old guys say, boy, they're not like us. I said, you're absolutely right. They're not like us. Every one of them has joined. This is the first all-volunteer military, and they are all serving well. And if you look at Fallujah and every place else they serve, I tip my hat to them because they're carrying on the tradition in the armed forces today, that same as the guys from back to the Revolutionary War, you know, the same spirit. And I just love them. They're all great people.
You think there should be a draft?
I think people should serve. I would prefer that they do it on their own, but you know, Peace Corps or something. Once you get a taste of giving, it's tough to give it up. You know, and I'm a living example of that. I've been doing it for 57 years, and it's just, I'm saddened that I'm not going to be in a position to do that at the level I was before. So now I'm focusing on veterans. You know, what I can do for our veterans. You know, and that's going to be my driving from now on to do more for our vets. They are unsung heroes. You know, at our memorial, we do an educational program. Civics isn't taught anymore. People, young men and women today have no idea how this country works, or what it means, or what service is all about. You know, they don't know that all the rights that they deserve are earned by the military. They weren't given to them by anybody else. They're all earned by the military, who protected those rights and defended those who would try to take them from us. So we have an educational program. We actually pay to bus the children out. We bring them out. They talk to a veteran who tells about his or her experiences in the military and why it's important. And we gave each one of them a copy of the Constitution before they leave, and an American flag. And they take an etching. We have one wall that's dedicated to those killed in action in Delaware County. We make them take a name. We say, if you say a name, they're never dead as long as you say their name. So we get kids to take the etchings off the wall and to say their name, you know, and they have something that would remind them to say their name. We also we hooked up with a young man from Massachusetts who does dog tags of everybody that died in the service, and we give them out at our dinner, you know, to anybody who wants them. So it's you know, we got to keep that memory of them up. So. And policing it was the closest thing to know. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I was looking for something that gave me the same thing. And I looked at multiple police departments, and I wound up at Lower Marion because they were very regimented. They had policies, and they were one of the few departments at the time that had rigid policies and procedures in writing that they routinely enforced. In fact, some of the minor things, if you got caught driving down the street with your arm out the window, you got written up. You know, not wearing your hat in public, you got written up. Smoking in public, you get written up. So that resonated with me. So I went there, and I did well at Lower Marion. A couple of bigger events in on April 4th of 2000. Senator John Himes' plane crashed in Lower Marion. What had happened? He flew from Lycoming Township, county in Pennsylvania, was flying to Philadelphia National Airport. The Piper Aerostar he was in, the light for the front landing gear was out, and the pilot didn't know if the gear was down. I would have thought at that time that Philadelphia International Airport would have a book or a computer program on the nomenclature of every aircraft that's in existence.
Right.
But they didn't. Well, they flew past the conning tower, and the conning tower said looks like the wheel's down. With this, there was a Sunoco helicopter that was ferrying Sunoco executives back and forth from their corporate headquarters to Philadelphia Airport, and the pilots agreed to take a look at the aircraft. So they said, it looks like the wheel's down, but now they're flying. They moved them out of the Philadelphia airspace so that they wouldn't interfere with the landing craft. Put them over. They were heading towards Manayunk, which has numerous towers, communications towers. And then he told them, "Listen, you're heading over there. They turned them west. When they turned them west, they're now over Lower Marion." The helicopter pilot decides one more time to go underneath the plane to check the wheel closer. Well, when the helicopter goes under the wing of the aircraft, the helicopter's propeller sucks the wind out from the wing dips, hits the blades of the chopper, and the chopper blades tear the wing off the aircraft. So now we got two aircraft, and there's an elementary school with over 600 children in it, right in our path. The aircraft crashes in front of the school and burns. The helicopter rolls out of control, and to this day, it just went over the roof of that school. There was over 600 children still in the school, and it crashed in the side yard of the building where 109 children were out for lunch at the time. And there was a woman named Om who, she was a teacher's aide from Vietnam. She heard the helicopter. She knew it was in trouble from her Vietnam experience, and she scattered 109 kids. And we only wound up with 2 6-year-old girls killed on the ground, another couple burnt, and the pilot and co-pilot of the helicopter, Senator Hines, and the 2 pilots in his aircraft all died. And it was a shame. It was a tough day, but that was my scene. And we wound up, the National Transportation Safety Board actually went to my board of commissioners and said, it looked like we can investigate plane crashes for a living. They said they never saw anything that was so contained. And the guy said, it looked like we did that for a living. And to me, it was just a big crime scene, and we had to protect it. But then we found out that Senator Himes was actually on board of the aircraft. So that was one of my jobs.
Pretty
that I handled as a captain.
And I'm sure one of the things that I think I read in the articles that I found online about you was that as a policeman, you never know, you can't call it. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, man. So you have to be prepared for every contingency.
Yes.
So what's that like?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Yeah. You just got to be, everybody says it's a dangerous job. I said, it's like any job can be dangerous if you're not paying attention. No, what you have to be as a police officer, you have to be focused. You got to be focused all the time, and you can never take anything for granted. What's that old saying, make an assumption makes an ass out of you and me.
Yeah.
You assume you're probably going to get hurt. Never assume, it's, you never know who you're stopping. Everybody knows who you are. We're in full uniform, and there's no doubt who we are and what we're about. And people don't have branding on their forehead or markings that say, "Hey, this guy's a criminal," or "This guy's going to kill you," and "This guy's not." You have to if you follow the rules, and you can do it with a smile too. People don't even know what you're doing, and you're just doing your job. Always got to be alert. And I can say, and the other most important tool a police officer needs is common sense. You can't, and don't let people get you. If they get you, you're done. You know, I always tell people it's amazing when we deal with good, solid people. We're right up here with them. We're good. Now we get somebody that's down here, and for some unknown reason, we want to get down there with them, you know, and mix it up on their level. I said, you know, everybody knows they're an idiot. Why do you want to go down to the idiot's level? Stay above that, you know.
Right.
And that it's really, and we trained. You know, I believe in training. The Marine Corps taught me that. You know, when you're trained, people say, well, you know what? In the heat of the moment, I thought this and I thought that. They may think they did, but they really didn't. They went into automatic mode. They went into the training mode. They did what they were told to do. And we would see it constantly when well-trained officers, when the fecal matter hit the oscillator, you know, they would do what they were trained to do. You know, and time again we saw. So training is key. I remember one person said, boy, you keep training your guys how to shoot or how to kill people. I said, no, we're not teaching them how to kill. We're teaching them how to survive. Most policemen spend a whole year, you spend most of your life doing good. You're helping people. Taking a life is so contrary to what we do. You know, it's not, you know, it's hard, you know, to take a life. And I always tell them, you take the life, you own it. So you got to make sure that you're justified in taking that. We make sure officers won't fire if they don't know where the rounds are going. I mean, that's how well trained we do it. Unfortunately, a lot of our brothers and sisters out there in law enforcement do not get that level of training. Most police shootings were within 7 feet of the suspect. Most. You know?
I've heard of that. I've heard a lot about this, Joe, in terms of you know, the criticism of training, of continuing education and training for. So it's refreshing to hear that you know, this is a way that you chose to operate. Because, you fall to the level of your training. I mean, an analogy for it is, I guess, you ever hear the statistics about, like, there's more firemen, probably volunteer firefighters, but how more of them are succumbing to cardiac issues because they're out of shape. They're not in particular, you know, they're not trained to do the job. And then they go and they have to do something really rigorous, climb a ladder or with a load and all that stuff. And so you have to train for all that shit, right? Then, you know, you're expert at the. So yeah, that's refreshing to hear.
Yeah, firemen are my favorite people. Those people, you know what? Cops get paid for what they do all the time, you know. And if we have to spend more time, we get paid overtime. Volunteer firemen are just they're to me, they're the heart and soul of the country. They're what those guys do, and those ladies, you know. It's you know, I remember one time we had a high-rise fire, and the guy was carrying the hose, and he was not in good shape. We were going up 11 stories, you know, and he was carrying the hose. So I took the hose off him. You know, all that turnout gear and everything. It's amazing, you know. And like you say, a lot of them aren't out of shape, but they're pushing that now. Most the firehouses now have active gyms inside the building. They push, you know, physical fitness. You know, I go every morning. I was at the gym at 1:30 this morning. So, I mean, I still.
I read that you're 3 a.m. You wake up at 3 a.m. and hit the gym.
I haven't set an alarm clock in years. I set a time in my head. I wake up and I go to the gym. Some people think I'm crazy. Sometimes they're at 12:30 in the morning, sometimes 1:30, 2 o'clock, you know, but I actually have a key to the place. I open it up for the guy.
Really?
Every morning. So, yeah, it's just, it's always been part of me. I don't lift a ton, but I stay in very good shape for my age. I'm 75 years old, and I can keep up with these kids. And police work, you've got to be able to keep up, or they're going to pass you. So,
yeah, you got to do that, man. That's another core value of service, you know, in the Marine Corps in specific, you know, physical fitness, you know, constantly sharpening the edge, making sure you're prepared for every contingency. So I feel like that's it's definitely an idea that could catch on. And another cool thing about service, you know, to be of service to yourself, to work on, you know, I always feel, you know, as a doctor and as a anatomy guy, this is our body, man. This is our earth suit. One of my patients calls it her earth suit. You got to take care of it, and it'll take care of you, man. Where are you going to live if you don't take care of your body, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and shit happens to even if we are in in shape. I mean, it definitely gives us a clear advantage, but things sometimes, life can be cruel regardless, but it's a lot less cruel if you're prepared and you're fit physically and mentally.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. You
I
get
don't
the
know about
same.
1:30 in the morning now.
Well, everybody thinks I'm mentally irregular anyhow, but
Me too.
yeah, but it's just what I do. It's just I found out I used to try to go when I got home from work, but then things that happened at work, you couldn't get out, you didn't go. I tried going after dinner, but after you got done eating dinner, you sat down and said, last thing you want to do is go throw iron around. So I come up with this idea it would come early in the morning, and it started like at 4 o'clock in the morning. It just kept getting earlier. So as time went on, and as I got older, I find I don't need much sleep. 4 or 5 hours, I'm good, and I'm up and going. Drives my wife nuts, but anyhow. But when I went to the gym, I was going on my time. I wasn't taking time away from the family. So, and that they've always as much as I've given myself the community, I still always made time for my family, which are very important to me. My children and my grandchildren. I have 5 of them. My grandson's a pitcher at the Westchester University. He's throwing the ball over 90 miles an hour. He's a sophomore.
Wow.
I have a grandson that's taking cybersecurity at Scranton University. Got a 16-year-old granddaughter who's unbelievable. She throws a softball underhand at 57 miles an hour. She's a sophomore in high school, and my youngest is in 8th grade. He's going to graduate 8th grade, and the oldest girl, who will be 24 this year, she's just marvelous. They all turn out. Doc, they all come out. They're contributing people, and that's that's what I want them to be. I push that all the time. Nothing's more important than your family. If you can't keep your family, what else out there is worth it? Everything else is incidental to the family. And you have to show by example, lead by example. I'm not a do as I say, not as I do guy. I give them an example, to live by. I have one good thing. I pass it on. I had amnesty table when my kids were teenagers. If we sat down at dinner and you told me what you did, there'd be no punishment. We would talk about things, But if I found out from somebody outside the family that you did something you didn't tell me, then your ass was grass. The trust bank got emptied, and so it's kind of that's what I try to do. And honesty is at all times. Be upfront. Have integrity. It's even with police officers. Unfortunately, I've fired and I've suspended police officers for not doing their job. But police work is a screw up looking for a place to happen most times. And I don't think that policemen come in and say, geez, I'm driving up the driveway today. Maybe I'm going to do the most galactically stupid thing I can think of today. Turn the whole place upside down and have the whole department focusing on me. I don't think that happens. I think that things happen in this work. And I accept that. And I accept that, that things will happen. What I won't accept is a lie. Things will happen, and just say honestly what you do. It may be galactically stupid. But all I want to hear from you is, hey, what you did honestly, what you were trying to accomplish, and then punishment's meted out on that thing. If you're trying to do something and it goes south, I'm okay with that. If it's omission, you're trying to get away with something different. And if you lie is a deliberate act. Everything else can be accidental. A lie is deliberate. Don't lie to me. I will believe you every time until I find out you're not trustworthy. And once you lie, you're done with me. I won't have anything to do with you. So,
that's great. Great way to operate, man.
Did you take care of your people?
Hell yeah. Did on a comical note, did you remember the Police Academy films?
Oh God, yeah.
Weren't they great?
Yeah. Tackleberry still my favorite cop.
Tackleberry, thinking Mahoney.
Yeah.
They were great. Hightower. I'm sure that each of those characters, I'm sure that you have somebody who reminds you that you served with on the force who kind of are similar to each of those characters, I can imagine that.
Well,
I
there's
love
cop humor, Doc. There's
what
cop
that.
humor. There's cop humor out there. We find fun in the stupidest things to do to each other. And you know, I remember one time as a sergeant, I've come down City Avenue and I look over, and there's two police cars on either end of the Ballackinwood Shopping Center, and you can see smoke coming from the tires. I said, "What are these people doing?" Now I see sparks. And now the cars are coming at each other. Here they had Roman candles. They're jousting. They're shooting fireballs at each other as they're jousting through the parking lot.
The
Coming by.
police.
So I pull them over, and they both have they get the head down thing. I said, "What the hell are you doing?" They think I'm getting ready to shoot. I said, "Go behind the shopping center. You're out here in front of God and everybody. Everybody can see what you're doing. Go behind it, so you don't get caught."
Jousting with, but that's a great story, man. That's a great
hiding in the police car. I came out one day. We have one-way doors in the police car. Once you're in, you can't get out. They lock from the. You have to be let out from the outside.
Yeah.
When I come out, I'm the lieutenant at the time. It's 2:30 in the morning. I used to hang over. My shift was 4 to 12, especially on Friday and Saturday night. I would hang out until like 2 o'clock in the morning at the station, because invariably I would get home, just get all undressed and get ready for bed, and I get a call and have to come back. So I'm coming out of the police station. It's about 1:45 in the morning, and there's a police car sitting in the driveway running. I said, "What the heck? Who left the police car running? What, are they stupid?" Well, the next day I hear a knock. Here, the officer's in the back seat. And I opened the door to let him out. I said, "Can you tell me what happened?" He says, "All I can tell you, Lieutenant, is we used to check the back seat to make sure at the beginning of shift, you lift out the back seat to make sure there's no contraband. So if you took a prisoner when you got to work, when you got to lockout, you took him out of the car, you would take the seat out. And if you found contraband, you could testify that, hey, there was nothing on that seat beginning of shift, and he's the only guy who was in the back seat, so it's his." Because you would get drugs, guns. I mean, it was. Wow. If you did a bad search, we'd find stuff in that seat afterwards. Anyhow, okay, so can you tell me what happened? He says, "All I can tell you, Lieutenant, was I was trying to change the seat, and somebody pushed me and closed the door." And them guys left him there. He was there for an hour and a half in the shift. He was still in the back of that car. I don't know what would happen if I didn't come out, if they were ever going to come get him. But I spent the whole shift in the back seat of his car. It's just silly stuff like that. It doesn't mean much when you tell it, but it's hysterical at the time.
Retribution for that, I bet, too.
Oh yeah, payback's a bear. They will get you. Yeah. I had a pickup truck one time as a sergeant, and it had a sliding glass door in the back deck. Well, those characters reached in through there and tied my door shut from the outside, so I couldn't open the other side of the truck. So I had to go back and reach to the window to cut the rope that they tied my door shut with. But all good stuff. Hanging around those guys is really something. And I worry in our country today because I think the military and police work are the last bastions where truth, honor, integrity, loyalty, dedication, freedom, Constitution all have value and meaning, and and they're under attack. And I think, and I don't understand that. We are we're the preservers of this country, and I don't like the attacks. And some cases they're warranted, like you were saying earlier, 10%. You get one cop does some stupid thing out there, and it reflects on all of us.
Yeah.
And if they talk to us, we're pissed off that they did what they did.
Yeah. The makes me think like that. That's when there's an organization you hold dear, like your unit or the Marine Corps. Such pride and history around it.
Yes.
So that, one of my favorite verses of the Marines hymn is to fight for right and freedom and to keep your honor clean.
Yes.
You got to keep your honor clean. Like everybody thinks of Marines as like badasses and, warriors and stuff. And we are that, but you got to keep your honor clean. It's really good. We're not just berserkers, you have to have a code.
Yes.
And when somebody doesn't abide by that, of course it can be, and it's guilty by association sort of shit.
Exactly. Yeah.
So nobody, if you care about your organization, your community, or whatever, then you represent it well, and you do your best. We're all humans; we make mistakes, but
Yeah.
the serving I feel like serving in some capacity. Again, it doesn't even need to be in the capacity that we have, but just to be a good citizen, to be a good human being, a member of the community. If you do that, then it like represents. It's like a precedent. You established a precedent for this is who I am. And then if you do something stupid, then hopefully you self-regulate yourself back onto, some sort of moral compass sort of thing, or you atone for whatever you did wrong, but anyway. So, all right, Joe, I got some, this is fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and say this is one of the best podcasts that I've done. You've been an outstanding guest with awesome stories. What does Semper Fidelis mean to you in terms of your service and life?
It does everything that we talked about, Doc. It means, for those who don't know what it means always faithful. You're always faithful to your country, to your unit, and to yourself. And if you can accomplish that, and that's, I kind of try to live my life that way. Hey, we're all humans. Humans make mistakes. And we always fall victim to our humanity. But like you said, hey, you know what? I didn't do that right, and I won't do that again. I learn more from my mistakes than I did from my successes. You fall on your ass a couple of times, and damn, that was not good, and I won't let that happen again. And you stir yourself to it. So, Semper Fidelis, and you put that to everything. You put it to your job, your family. If you're always faithful, if you're always straight, you're always looking out for the greater good, you're always going to come out on top. And I can't say enough. Service to something bigger than yourself is unbelievable. And having served in the Marine Corps, it's this gigantic organization out there. It's bigger than life, and you're a part of that. And it's just so self-satisfying. I'm telling you, I'm a content person, Doc. I've not been content the last couple of months because I'm not out there doing what I do. Serving people has always been, it's a calling, and I love it. And I highly suggest it to everybody, and even look past people's faults. People do stuff, because they do it. I always feel sorry for the ones that do it because they have to, and get angry at the ones that do it because they want to. There's a difference between that. We've run into some criminals out there that are, they shouldn't have done what they did, but they were doing it for stronger motive than just stealing. They were trying to help the family or get something for the family. And it's, and I've always felt sorry for it. There's a difference between that, those that prey on people and those who are just trying to, get to the end of the day.
Right. And they made a mistake. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody makes mistakes. You don't want to be perfect in this world. There was only one perfect guy, and they sought him out and nailed him to a tree. So you don't want to be perfect. You want to stay with the group. So leave you alone. They won't come seek you out. But if you have a difference, they're going to seek you out and deal with it. So you just Absolutely. Want to be part of the herd. Yeah.
Well, Joe, you're friggin' awesome, brother. I wish you the absolute best in Semper Fi. One thing that came to mind while you were talking about your brothers in arms and your policemen brothers and sisters and your family, as I said, if you're this stellar of an individual, your wife's got to be really pretty special, huh?
Oh my God, yeah. I hit a home run there. Don and I have been married 53 years. We've been dating each other for 57 years, 4 years, including almost 2 years while I was away. Never even saw her. I tell everybody we fell in love in the mail. We was no Skyping or anything. Then we wrote letters to each other, and that's and I wrote to her. I didn't write to her as much as she wrote to me because it's just the circumstances. But I tell everybody we fell in love in the mail. And Donna's been, she's a great police officer's wife. She stands beside me when she's behind me to protect my back. Somebody tries to attack me, she's in front of me. Donna's the consummate policeman or Marine's wife. She just, she's dedicated to it, and she lets me do all this stuff. That's the other thing. I mean, I took time from family and friends and events and everything else, serving the community, and not where I maybe ought to should have been. But Donna was always understanding of that there was it was my commitment to people and she honored that. So it takes special people to do that, especially today. Everybody wants it. It's all about me, and I'm all about we, So.
That's the right way to operate, my brother.
Yeah. So.
Joe, I appreciate your time, man. Semper Fi, brother.
Doc, thank you very much. And Semper Fi.
Kick
And
ass
thank
and
you
take
for
names.
inviting me on your podcast.
Oh, it's been great, dude.
Yeah.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.